let's say the number.
Okay, we're recording. All right, hello, my name is Erica Young. I'm with Oil Roller Group, and thank you guys for joining. Tonight we're going to talk about ditching and switching to our next in our series for ditching and switching in 2021 is essential oils in the garden. So we're going to talk a little bit about switching out the things that you could be possibly using in the garden. And taking away the things that are toxic and replacing them with something that is better for you and your garden, your plants, and pets, kids, and environment. So the reason why you would ditch any chemicals in the first place, typically there's three types of chemicals that we're using in our garden. And they are herbicides, pesticides, and synthetic chemical-based fertilizers. So just a few notes is that herbicides do not just kill weeds; they're toxic to both humans and animals, and we use them to try to kill the weeds. And studies have shown that dogs that play in herbicide-treated yards have a 300% increased risk of cancer. And a manufacturer-supported review deemed herbicides is safe, but certain studies have shown that it can affect human embryonic, placental, and umbilical cells in vitro. So not good for us. Pesticides, they don't just kill garden pests, they basically kill all insects. And only 1% of insects that come around your garden are actually a concern. So that's meaning that 99% are actually not a concern or beneficial to your gardens. And so pesticides kill everything or affect everything. So it basically disrupts the natural ecosystem by exterminating both pollinators and beneficial insects along with destructive ones. So it's kind of like pesticides are oftentimes like a good comparison is like antibiotics, where we can have antibiotic resistant infections. Same thing with pesticides. Is the pesticides eventually cause our pests to be resistant to those pesticides, and we have to use different pesticides or more pesticide, which is not necessarily good that those alterations are happening in the first place. So synthetic chemical-based fertilizers are very harmful. So there are organic options, but inorganic options are often made from industrial waste and can contain dangerous substances such as nitrates, lead, arsenic, cadmium, and radioactive components. So basically those things can contaminate our plants. And then when it rains, they contaminate our water system. The runoff goes into our lakes, ponds, and ultimately ends up causing an increase in algae, and that can suffocate and affect all the aquatic plants and animals just by the algae. But also the fertilizers are not good for them. So they're not good in us. They get in us. They get in the plant. If you grow vegetables and fruits in organic fertilizers, they're inside the plant because that's what the plant is absorbing from the soil. So they're also getting in us. So that's why we're wanting to ditch these things and use something that's natural and that's going to be good for building our immune system, the plant's immune system. So that's why we're going organic. So instead of using chemicals, we're going to be using essential oils. And essential oils are the life force of the plants. They're extracted from shrubs, flowers, trees, bark, roots. And within the plants, essential oils protect against pests, disease, and harsh environmental conditions. And there are hundreds of active constituents that work in harmony to create immune system of the plant. So they help bring homeostasis to the plant. When we're talking young living, we're talking essential oils, we're talking about young living specifically, because young living is, and that's where I initially learned about plants and organic, how important it is. I didn't know what I didn't know how to do it, but I know that what they did is important because I've seen it when I went to, or a lot of us have when we went to the farms. But everything is taken such intricate care of to take care of the plant to produce a quality oil. So starting with the seeds, getting good seeds that are going to be like the best lavender you can have, that's the most, has the most constituents that are good for us. And then we're cultivating, the way they're water, the way they plant, the way that they pick the weeds is all done in a way that is going to not harm the plant. And so they don't use any fertilizers or anything. The way they distill, if you go to the store and you get some oil, it's 9 times out of 10 going to be distilled in aluminum vat rather than a stainless steel vat, because it's a cheaper way to distill them. But then you have traces of aluminum, and that's a neurotoxin. So you don't want aluminum in your essential oils. And so they're distilled a certain time period for, to where they can keep those constituents that are so important in the essential oil, keep them intact. And then they test them in the way they seal and the way they make sure everything is exactly what it should be and pure. And that's what Young Living does. So I just didn't want to share this and then you guys end up going and buying something from the grocery store and expecting the same results. The ones at the grocery store are always too full of carrier oil, so they're not pure essential oil. So they'll have this much essential oil and that's carrier. So you wouldn't want to put a carrier oil, olive oil or something on your plants. That's not good. But pure oils are perfect for the plants. So you'd use the oils in the garden because they're effective in chasing away harmful garden pests. They protect the plants against disease and improves the health and growth of the plants and attracts beneficial insects. So those are all reasons why we use essential oils in the garden. So some tips for gardening with essential oils is do not apply to plants when the temperature is over 100 degrees. And then obviously we're working with oil here, so we don't want to apply them with the plants wet or it's about to rain, because it's gonna, your oils are gonna go to waste. Avoid spraying the plants with essential oils in the fall before winter hardening has occurred. I do not know what that means, but that's one of the rules it recommended. So someone that knows what that means, you can follow that. Do not apply essential oils to plants with sulfur or sulfur containing pesticides. There's a reaction that can occur with that. So you wouldn't want to use with any type of pesticides or sulfur. And then conifers and pine trees, maples, they tend to be more sensitive to essential oils. So you would apply the soil to the plant. So any kind of like balsam fir, maples, different pine trees, they recommend applying it to the soil around the plant instead of directly on the plant. And then be cognizant of, that doesn't look like it's spelled right. Anyway, be cognizant of the pet sensitivities. So like you wouldn't want to have a cat and put a whole bunch of some type of, citrus oils in your garden that they're sensitive to when your cat's playing in the garden. So just be, be aware of what pets you will have in there and make sure that you're not putting something in there that can affect your, have a negative impact on your pet. If you ever get essential oils in your eyes, which if you are using oils for very long, you will, you just put a drop of carrier oil, like olive oil or something, on your finger and just touch your eyelid to it, and that can stop the burn. And then store all your essential oils in a cool, dark place, because UV rays and heat can cause some of the constituents to be altered. So the most important part of gardening organically, we're going to go through a few of these things, and then we're going to talk essential oils. So there's several different things that you can have that's important for soil, because we're talking natural health. We're talking taking away the things that harm, so taking away the fertilizers and all that, but then you're adding what is going to build a good plant. Just like you're going to add things that are going to build and support your body, you're going to do the same thing for the plant. So you want it to have a good foundation. So humus, I believe is how it's said, what it's called is It retains moisture and allows for sufficient drainage. That's great to mix into your soil. You want beneficial organisms. So organic soil will support those. If you get the non-organic, they're going to have things in it that's going to affect earthworms, for instance. Earthworms are very beneficial to a garden, but once you add the pesticides and the fertilizer, it does not, it is not good for the earthworm, and it makes them die or go away. And so you want to have organic soil that will support the living organisms in your plants, because you're basically helping create a natural ecosystem in your yard or wherever you have your plants. Something good is to test the pH and the nutrients in your soil. So you can buy a soil kit, and I did this weekend and used it, and you can tell what is a good, like what the pH of your soil is, and then test the amount of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, which is also called potash, is in your soil. So you know what you need to add, and there's organic ways to add those. Secondary nutrients are going to be calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. Compost you can make on your own. I make it on my own. I think you do too, Sharon, don't you?
I do.
Yeah. You do too, Sherry?
Me
Do you,
too.
Betsy? Yeah, so we all are
Sharon helped me
composting.
get started.
I made the mistake of mixing my compost into my garden. I realized now after doing, and I just did it this weekend, but I realized after reading this is that compost is best if you place 2 to 4 inches as the top layer of your garden around your plants. So in hindsight, I kind of wasted a whole bunch of my compost. I should have just put it right on top of my plants, or right down on the top layer below my plants. But compost is really good. If you buy the compost from the store, it combines natural fertilizers, mulch, and weed preventer, and all in one mixture. So fertilizer are going to add nutrients. If they're organic, which is what I would recommend, like if you need more nitrogen or more magnesium, whatever your soil kit says, that's what you have to go by. You would just do what your soil kit indicates. So if you have good soil, I also didn't mention light. You want about 6 to 10 for a vegetable garden. You want about 6 to 10 of full sun a day. So you want to plant them in the sun. And then the next thing is watering. I made the mistake last year of using my sprinkler to water my garden. I see now after doing the research that it's really important to apply water to the base of the plants, and that helps encourage deeper roots. And so it's better to just water a few days a week and do a deep watering where you're watering the roots, rather than, like a sprinkle or a more shallow water daily. So anyway, rainwater is very beneficial because it's going to include the minerals in the rain. And that's why you can see if it rains one day, everything turns green the next day, and you've been watering all the time. It's because God's water works just much better. And so consider keeping rainwater. So we do have rain barrels at my house. And just if you do have a rainwater, one thing that I've noticed that helps keep mosquitoes out of it is I put a cap full of Thieves household cleaner in it to help get rid of the mosquitoes. So anywhere where there's water gathering, my neighbor's fountain gets mosquitoes in it, and it's just sitting there stagnant. I always go dump a little bit of Thieves in there because it's just reproducing mosquitoes. So that's a great way to help with mosquitoes. So another thing you can do for your organic gardening is, to try to protect your plants from pests. And the best way to do this is help bring things like frogs, lizards, birds to your yard, because they're going to help kill a lot of the worms, caterpillars, slugs, and things that are harmful to your garden. They're going to help keep in check. So one thing, we have a bat box my husband's going to hang up. And so we have a few of them in our neighborhood now. But we put up bat boxes because the more bats you have at night, they come and kill a lot of mosquitoes. So they kill like 10,000 mosquitoes a night or something. It's something crazy. So That's a great thing for an organic garden is to have, if you want to be out in your garden, to have back boxes because the mosquitoes don't harm you, the plants, but they harm you when you're trying to garden. Companion planting. Remove many of the insects as you can by hand rather than just trying to kill them. Just remove the big ones that you see, like maybe hornworms, like the tomato worms. Companion planting is something that's really cool that organic gardeners that are really good at it do, and I want to do this next year is my goal to do more companion planting. But it's basically you plant plants that work good together. So for instance, Sharon brought up an example of tomatoes and basil grow really well next to each other, and the basil makes the tomatoes smell better, taste better. The plants next to each other, they work well in the fact that they repel different bugs that each of them struggle with. So they're just like companions. They work together to grow together, and they typically are stronger plants when they have something that is a companion plant next to them. So that's a great way to organic garden, and you can do more research on that. There's a lot on that. So here's some of the common garden pests that we want to get rid of. And so here are some different essential oils that repel, or I don't know if they repel or they kill them, but they help get rid of them. So, I mean, you can look at it, but so ants, there's an ant recipe that I'm going to give you in a second. But these are what the oils that you'd use for different specific animals. So I'm planting squash plants for the first time, and I'm worried about squash bugs. So I'm going to proactively be spraying and I'll explain to you how in a little bit, is spraying peppermint in my garden because I know that is going to repel the squash bugs. So I typically get chiggers really easy. I don't know why. And so if there's a chigger in the grass, it's going to find me. So this is good to know because I thought I could even mix some of these oils, even use our spray for bugs or that Young Living has, or I can just mix some of these oils in, like maybe grapeseed oil or something, and put them on my legs when I'm going to sit in grass. But I typically avoid it because I hate getting them. So there's 4 ways that are you to use essential oils in your garden. So one way is by making an essential oil spray, and it's really good to deter insects, as well as actually to put some essential oils, which I'll go in a second, that are beneficial to the specific plants that you have. So 8 to 10 drops of essential oil to 1 gallon of water is what you would do, and then you spray directly, and then you shake, put into a spray bottle, and then every time you spray, you need to shake it, and then you spray directly on the plants or the soil around them. Another way is to use cotton balls, and they're best to deter ground moving insects. And you can add 4 to 5 drops of essential oil to a cotton ball and scatter them around the area or in the holes. And then hanging strips of cloth, you can spray the solution of water and essential oils that you make, and you can hang them from your garden or around your garden. And this is a great way to deter cats, dogs, and other animals, as well as a way to attract pollinators. And I do have a pollinator blend we'll share with you in just a second that's gonna help attract those really cute fuzzy bees to your garden. And then string is really good at deterring flying insects, and you can soak a string in the water and then also hang between plants. So that works as well. So here's just a few recipes. And broad spectrum garden pest spray. So it has these oils mixed in 1 gallon, which is clearly more than 8 to 10 drops that I said before. But this is a broad spectrum garden pest spray. So it's okay to add more oils than the 8 to 10 if you want to. But you would add all these essential oils into a gallon of water and then put in a spray bottle and spray. And that's a very good preventative for pests overall. These hit a lot of the pests that are going to be damaging to your garden. Fire ant spray. I hate fire ants. And this is a
Me too.
this is a recipe for it. So 6 drops of peppermint, 5 drops of cinnamon bark, 10 drops of orange, 5 drops of wintergreen, and a pint of water. And then shake it, and you can spray directly on those fire ants. And I have not tried that recipe, so I'm excited to try that one. And then a weed killer, this does work, and this does kill weeds. It's best to pull the weeds by hand as they come up, because once they get to the part where they're producing seeds, you're basically losing the battle. Even if you have a good, I don't care if you're using chemicals or organic, if you have a good weed killer, you're still losing the battle if they come to fruition, if the seeds come to fruition. So the best way is to pull the weeds up by hand as they come up. And so just combine 8 to 10 drops of any of these oils with 20 ounces of white vinegar and 1 drop of Castile soap. And so you mix that in, and then you spray directly onto the weeds, and be careful not to spray on the surrounding grass or whatever you're spraying that you don't want to die, because it is going to kill your plant. I would kill the weed and the plants. So cinnamon bark, palo santo, basil, pine, oregano are all good essential oils. If you have all of those, I would just put 2 or 3 drops of each, and then I'm like, let's just do all of them if you have it. So 2 or 3 drops of each and some vinegar, and make yourself a weed killer. So almost done here. Pollinators' favorite blend is, this will attract butterflies and bees to your garden. And if you ever have worn, Lang Lang is another good one too, but Lang Lang, orange, rosemary, lavender, if you go outside with it, you've probably noticed bees chasing you. I know I do. And those are oils that are really going to attract bees, but they're great to attract to your garden, because your garden needs bees to pollinate. And so we're doing organically, we want bees in our garden. So combine all of those oils, and then you can just put them on cotton balls or cloth strips, put a few drops on it, and then scatter the garden around plants, and you're going to find yourself having just a little happy bee area. So the last slide is that the beneficial essential oils for plants are listed here. And this was all, I didn't show you the book yet. Did I show you the book? This is the book I recommend. I just ordered 5 books to give as gifts and a giveaway. So I would like to give this book to someone who comments on the Facebook page. I'm going to give that to them today. This is a great book by Growing Healthy Homes. This is where the chart came from. I just took a picture of it. But it goes into different types of funguses and blight and repellent for, rabbits and all sorts of stuff. It has in the back, it has what we'll be going through next week is our first aid for different things that happen in the garden that you can get. So it's awesome little book. It's like $5.95. So great purchase if you want to gift this or get it for yourself, or start having a green thumb and you never have. So these are the oils that you can mix in water. And like I have an apple tree. So a great one would be to mix lavender, marjoram, or melissa in it and spray the the apple tree. So some of these I'm growing in my garden, I would look and see and can make little sprays for them. Or I could, if there's some similarities, like, in some of my plants, I could just make one and put on a few different plants. But these are all that are oils that are going to be really beneficial for certain plants. And how do I get the oils? You guys, we know how to get the oils, but you just ask the person that invited you or showed you this video. So that is it. Thank you for joining us. Okay, I stopped. Let's see. Hold on, let me stop recording.